Hey guys, how's it going? It's Everseen here. So today I've got my project that I've been working on, which I think this build is going to be better than the Invoker that I was playing. I am in Hardcore Solo Self-Found. I'm playing a Shattering of Concoction Pathfinder, currently level 75, and I've got just over 2 days played, 2 days, 7 hours. I tried to record this video earlier, and that was 2 or 3 hours ago, and I've left the game open. So a lot of AFK time, probably over like 12, maybe even a full day. But I spent a lot of time in the campaign because this is a total fresh start. I wanted to kind of farm up enough gear before I took on certain bosses. So yeah, basically the way I leveled was from Lightning Arrow, Lightning Rod, and Orb of Storms. I did that until my second Ascendancy, so around level 40, 45. And I went into the passive skills first because it's really good early on to get the 2 passives. It's 6 passive points from the Ascendancy, so you're like level 21, 22 with 6 extra passive points. It's really good early on. And then yeah, once I got my second Ascendancy, I refunded these and got both of the Shattering Concoction as well as the Flask Charges. Now, I waited for my second Ascendancy because of the Flask Charges gained. So yes, you can do this build from just Shattering Concoction, like from level 20 something, but sustaining your Mana Flask is a little bit difficult. But if you have, like, say, a Mana Flask that has gain 0.25 charges per second or 0.1 or whatever, it'll help you more. But for me, I didn't have any of that. Fresh start, so I decided to wait. And then I also got increased flash charges gain, so 12% here, another 30 here, so 42. And then I've also got 0.1 charges, like, flat value from Mana Flasks. So, and then the biggest one is Connected Chemistry, which gives me 50% more flash charges. So there's that more word again. Increased is additive, so all of these add together, and then more multiplies all of these given values, as well as a belt. So I've had this belt, I got 2 belts actually that I used through leveling that are really good. This one was double res, but the key thing is increased flash charges gained, and then it also has it as a suffix too. So this one was giving me 53% flash charges gained, which gives me basically more than all of the passive points that I had currently in my build. So really good belt for this to actually sustain the mana charges. And then once you start scaling into crit, your build feels a bit better because you get more damage, and then the more damage you have, the less flash charges you're going to have to use for a boss. Because yeah, there's a bit of an awkward thing where like you could run out of flask charges while you're actually fighting a boss, and it doesn't feel that great. So I want to go over today in this video, it might be a little bit long, sorry about that if you guys don't like that, but I have timestamps for the video on key things that I'm going to talk about, so let's get into it. So this is the most SSF friendly build that I think you can possibly play right now. This build is basically free. It costs nothing to make this build. 0 divines, if you will. It might cost you a few exalts, whatever. If you're on trade, you can actually buy a Widowhail. It's going to be like, you can get one that's 200% plus for an exalt right now on trade. So it's super easy to actually do that. I'm actually using a Widowhail that's 221% and no soul cores in it currently. These are the soul cores you're going to want to use, which is 30% increased elemental damage with attacks, because Shattering Concoction is an attack, so it benefits off of these soul cores. So that's pretty much the bread and butter of the build, is basically just Widowhail and the Quiver being kind of insane. So you might wonder why I say it is the most SSF friendly build, and one was because of that other example, but the second example is because of the Ascendancy skill, which is Shattering Concoction. So it comes from the Ascendancy. No other Ascendancy other than Pathfinder can have it. And then there's also other classes like the Invoker has Meditate, and basically what that does is it gives you a free skill slot. That doesn't take up any of your skill slots, it just gives you another additional one. So this is our main skill, Shattering Concoction, and what you can do is you can put support gems in it. Note that if you do respec an Ascendancy passive, like a skill like this, if I revoke these points, all of these support gems that are currently in Shattering Concoction would go poof and they're gone. So just make sure you take them out if you do end up switching concoction skills or if you switch anything. But yeah, the thing about Ascendancy skills, which are crazy, is that they scale with your player level. They do not go off of socket currency as well as uncut gems. So currently right now, just to give you an example of how strong this is, basically my Shattering Concoction is level 26, which we'll get into that, is insane flat damage, but the core of it is that I want to show you if I take off my amulet, which has plus proj skills, and my bow, I go down to a level 17 Shattering Concoction. Currently, I have no level 17 gems. I'm in T4 maps, just progressing. My level is high enough, my player level, that I'm actually +1 gems when I technically shouldn't be, right? I should only have a level 16. So that's another reason why it's really good, because you'll always be what seems like a level ahead while you're progressing. And then on top of that, basically the links for the skill, the 4 link comes at level 40. The 5th link comes at level 65, so you'll still be in campaign. You'll be just finishing the campaign and on a 5 link. And then the last link is level 90. Now, the cool thing about this skill is that the flat damage is so high on this skill, once we scale the levels, that it really doesn't even need a 6th link. Okay, so let's talk about the actual skill itself and why gem levels are so important for this skill. Basically, Shattering Concoction just gives you a flat damage whenever you get the skill. It has, at level 1, 12 to 18 added cold damage. Now, as you scale this, let's just use level 20 as an example, because level 20 will come soon for my character. Once I get in the 80s range, I don't know. Actually, it says it right here, requires level. You can see it on PoE2 DB. So level 90, I get level 20, level 20 gem, sorry. So, what's great about this is that at level 20, you get 330 to 495 flat damage. So, when we do percentage increases projectile damage, elemental damage with attacks, all this other stuff, if you have a very high flat damage roll, it'll actually give you a ton of extra damage because we can just scale off of percentages. The more percentages we have, the higher flat damage we get, and vice versa. The more flat damage we have, the better value our percentage increases are. So if we look at my character currently, basically I have, with this quiver on and with this amulet on, it's a 26. So technically, it's a 17, right? If we take this off. So if I put these back on, we're getting plus 9 levels. So we can get even higher than this later, but for now, that's all I have. But if we go, say, a level 20 gem, and we go to level 29, notice how it was 330 to 495, and now it is 919 to 1378. We literally got triple the amount of damage just from having global modifier level increases. So that's pretty much the whole bread and butter of this build, is that you want to just scale the gem level as high as you possibly can. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. So right now, like, I have a really good tooltip, and I'm, 361% crit damage bonus right now. So my build is actually just beginning to scale into the higher stages. Now, my build is only using a 221% Widowhail, and I was using this one that was 214%, but I just want to kind of show you the cool things about this. So I'm getting 80% from the passive skill tree, right? From this whole wheel here. So all of these nodes give me 80%. And this bow will give me a total of 301%. This would have given me 294%. Now, the funny thing is I was thinking about getting a better one and then maybe valing this one, but I'm actually going to use this one for now. This one was the one I was using. It has increased LE damage with attacks. It's great. But if I put that bow on, my Shattering Concoction goes down 1 level. And that's just because of the percentage increased bonuses gained from the quiver. So I actually net more damage. So that's kind of what I'm doing for now. But ideally, what you do want is like a 280 to 300% increased bonuses, which you can get much later. It's more of a min-maxing strategy to get that, but even if you just get 250%, you're in pretty good position. I'd probably go up even another level, so I would get in total like 8 or 9, 10 levels just from the quiver alone, which is crazy. Later on, you're going to want plus 3 proj on your amulet as well, and then yeah, plus 2 proj. I already have one of these. I got really lucky, but yeah, ideally I want plus 2 proj with crit damage bonus, because I'll show you right here. Basically, the crit damage bonus right now for my character is 361. It has main hand and offhand. Basically, it's just saying Widowhail is 190. You want to go off of the bigger numbers. So if we just put on this quiver, just for example, there's 2 cool things about this quiver. One is that it has crit damage bonus, and another is that it has attack speed. So currently, our crit damage bonus is only 361. Now, this is a tier 2 modifier, not even a tier 3, 4, or 5 modifier. And we can get a lot more, right? So when we put this on, our crit damage bonus basically doubles. So we go from 361 to 700%, which is insane, the amount. Like, I have only 400-ish% on my monk, which deletes most content in the game now. So at the very end game, I think this build, if you can get the stars to align on a quiver and stuff, it is way more damage than the build that I was currently playing. So I'm really excited to scale this build up to like the max, because I can get more than 19% crit damage bonus, hopefully, with even just a +1 level of proj skills would probably be better to get more crit and less levels, but that's something that I'll have to figure out. Another thing too is the attack speed. So if we go up to the attack speed, My attack time is 0.55 seconds and 1.81 attacks per second. If I put this quiver on instead, I'd literally gain, like, it's almost a 50% increase in the attack time, and then a 0.5 less attacks per second for only a 9% attack speed implicit. So that's really cool. And then another quiver you can go for too if you really want. So it's not really just this one base that you can chase. It's literally that base, or you can do crit chance for attacks too as an implicit, because this can go up to 30%. Currently, I only have 13 on my quiver. If I put this one on, basically my crit chance goes to 38%, and with this one, it had 34%. So you do get quite a bit of crit from it, so it's really nice to have those as a base as well. But attack speed is probably going to be the thing that you want to chase through the primed quiver. So basically, Widowhail is like an Exalt on trade, so you can go and get a Widowhail similar to mine and have a very similar performing build, basically. One thing about it, though, is Widowhail has a huge range of what modifier, like what number it can be, so 150 to 250. So if you're on SSF, this is a little bit trickier to get, and you do need some luck on your side. I obviously got lucky with this one. I gambled for this one from Finn with a level 2 character, and then I got this one from Chance Orbing a level 4 crude bow. So now we'll get into talking about actually how to farm a Widowhail. So currently, if you do a bow from item level 1 to 4, you can chance it at a chance of getting only a Widowhail, and that also works for when you're gambling. So if you have a character that's only level 2, it will only get level 2 items, or level 3 or 4 or whatever, but it only keeps it in that range that you want. So basically, go kill the first boss, go to town, and then just sit that character, don't touch it, and only gamble crude bows with it, and then you can have a chance at getting a Widowhail. This works really well because we can actually make another character where we basically just farm the Witch from Clearfell, and she's really easy if you just count your cold resistance. And I've got 2 characters right now. I actually did a whole Act 1 run with another character just because I misinterpreted how the vendoring with gambling works, and I'll explain that too, just because it's information that I learned that's probably valuable for other people to learn. But basically, I've been leveling a couple characters. So this is a level 6 ranger, and this is a level 5 ranger, and the only thing that they have done is killed the Clearfell Witch, and basically you get a chance to get unique items as well. You might even drop a Widowhail normally, but every time that we kill the Clearfell Witch, we are getting a gambling stack. So right now I have 0, but what you do is you go and kill her basically 100 times. This takes quite a bit of time, unless you can just go in and one-shot her, kind of like my build. It took me probably like 2 hours to do about 200 rerolls last night. I didn't actually end up getting a bow, so you can get really unlucky doing this for SSF, but this is a very good target farm approach. And if you get one that you're happy with, then you can just kind of push into the end game and just do end game content, and Widowhails drop like fairly often. And yeah, basically when you're doing these characters too, pick up any white crude bows that you see, because once you like make sure that they're like, say like these ones, say if they were normal instead of magic, these are item level 5, you don't want to do these. This is item level 3, as you can see on the top. This one's item level 2. So these ones you would be able to chance if they were normal rarity, and you don't want to do level 5 and above, because if you do, you can hit a Quill Rain with a Chance Orb, which you probably don't want to do, right? We're trying to farm Widowhail. So level 2 character, farm the Witch repeatedly, and I basically farmed her from level 2 to level 5, and then level 2 to level 6 on the other guy, and farmed over like 200 rerolls. So you just do that. You get lots of good gear too, like for other characters. This works especially well for hardcore. Basically, right now I've started collecting some decent pieces of gear. Right now I'm actually putting rarity onto my guy, so I have about 27% rarity, really good resistances, life, all pretty good gear, right? Next thing would be getting rarity on, say, like an amulet and some rings. But yeah, I put 2 storm runes in here to give me tons of flat lightning damage, and we go in and we just lightning rod 3 times and delete the boss. It's super easy. But yeah, as you can see, I'm getting like good items, 10% movement speed, life, lightning res, rarity, movement speed, cold, lightning res. So like, these are really good pieces for using on another character if I was to fresh start, right? So yeah, if I die and lose like all this gear, I've got more gear that I can kind of use. So you can do that. You can just pick up rares and get rid of them, like get regal shards and stuff. But overall, like, it's a pretty quick and easy farm, and it's almost targetable to get a Widowhail. Okay, so now that you've acquired your Widowhail, and it could be 150%, like if you're an SSF, like still use it and still do the build, because it's still going to work. It's just you're going to scale up later, and you're just going to keep upgrading your Widowhails until you do the corruption, and then you try and get like a 280 to 300% quiver, or bow, sorry. So yeah, just get one, that's your main thing, and then you can start playing the build. The biggest thing that you want to be going for on a quiver is plus level of projectile skills. So Shattering Concoction counts as a projectile skill. So what we're doing is we're just scaling this gem level up so that we can get tons of flat damage, right? So this works crazy good in the campaign too. Like if you get +1 level of proj really early on, you're looking at a really easy campaign because you're 5 levels above where you're supposed to be in gem levels, so you're getting tons of flat damage. Now, the next stat that you want to look for is crit damage bonus. For the reasons that I just showed you recently, and it doubled my crit damage bonus, having a lot of bonus from the quiver. So that's what you want. And then you also want, maybe crit chance would be cool, but yeah, maybe crit chance over attack speed, but attack speed is also nice too. And then any flat damage rolls are good. Like lightning damage is good for me because it's going to facilitate my Herald interactions right now. I'm using Herald of Thunder and Ice, so I want to be able to have lightning damage. Lightning damage is also good because it's going to provide you being able to shock bosses, which is going to give you additional damage, right? So shock gives you more damage, so you just want to use it. All right, so let's go over my plans for my character to scale, and I'm going to go over just some scaling things about the build that are really good. We've already touched on a few, but number one is obviously a +2 proj quiver with crit damage bonus, because that's going to give me a lot of damage. That's all the stats I want. I just want +2 level of proj skills and a crit mod, and I'm good. Then after that, I want a Widowhail with maybe 280 to 300% increased bonuses would be very nice. Another thing is you can get Emerald Jewels. I don't currently have one, but these can roll percentage increased bonuses from equipped quiver, so you want those as well. An additional thing that you could do to scale, which is very, very late game min-max, is you could get an Adorn Jewel from the Trial Master, which will give you increased bonuses of magic corrupted jewels, so make sure it's magic too. Basically, if you find one with the increased bonuses, you corrupt it, it stays with those stats, and you basically just get increased bonuses, which scales it further, and you just get tons of levels and more bonuses, right? So that's a very late game option, but that is an option to scale, which makes it kind of fun too, because that's a really big chase thing that's going to take you a lot of time to actually get an Adorn. That's good. If you do want to invest that much in one character, you have the option. Another thing is soul cores. We want soul cores of whatever to increase elemental damage with attacks. So just for some perspective, that's the only soul cores that you can use in the bow as well, by the way. This one has attacks, penetrate with this weapon, but technically you're not using the bow, you're using mana flasks, so like it doesn't count towards it. I thought it did, so that's why I equipped it. This is the only one that works, so increased elemental damage with attacks. For reference, these 2 points right here is 32%, and this gives me quite a bit of damage. So yeah, 30%, 60%, and then if you have a third socket, 90%, which is a lot of damage. If you've ever played the Invoker Monk, you know that 90% increased elemental damage with attacks on a staff gives you big damage. And this also scales our Heralds, so we're like double, triple, quadruple dipping. It's just insane. There's so many upsides to this build to work with, so that's awesome. And then another thing we can go for is Hand of Wisdom in action, which is similar to how the Monk plays. We want to do the Herald interaction. We want to get lots of lightning damage so that we can facilitate our interactions, but it also makes up for that attack speed, so we get tons of attack speed too. And we've got like already tons of dex on this character, 234, 120 int, and yeah, basically you're just wanting Hand of Wisdom in action because there's nothing better to scale your lightning damage, and then more lightning damage, more shocks, more explosions, more damage on a boss, more shocks on a boss, so that's kind of where I'm heading, I think. And then Ingenuity, of course. So Ingenuity with 80%, you could say, with a couple rings that have percentage increased cold damage. So normally on the Invoker, I was saying like go for flat damage, go for flat lightning damage, cold damage, but percentage is going to work best with this build because this skill relies heavily on a scaling of flat damage. So when we have percentage on a huge flat damage number, we're going to get so much more damage. So that's why we want percentage increased cold damage. If you get 2 rings with 30% with an Ingenuity, man, you're looking at basically 120%-ish, or maybe 100% cold damage, because 80%, it's roughly double, right? So like if you had 30 is 60, a double would be 120, so maybe you're getting like 100% increased cold damage, which is crazy. Then another thing is +3 level proj skills on your amulet. This is going to be a big boost because obviously we're going to get more levels. We want to stack as many levels as we can. If we get like to say level 35 on this skill, that would be absolutely massive. Another piece of the puzzle too is pathing all the way up here to this Endless Blizzard node because we also get another +1 level up here. So that's kind of another thing to get a lot more damage. Okay, so this build has phenomenal clear because I was using just Herald of Ice, but I actually rolled a body armor, which gave me 37 spirit so that I can fit in Herald of Thunder too. And I thought, well, I might as well go for the broken cascading Herald interaction that's currently in the game. This may be gone by the time you're watching this video, who knows? Maybe not, but for now I'm going to use it because I do like it and it's fun. I like the cascading thing. I like clearing breaches super fast, so it's nice. I decided to use it. Now we're also using Grim Feast. This is another thing that may be gone, but it's going to help us with our recovery greatly. So ideally we're going to want around 2,000 life, maybe 2,000 energy shield, and then Grim Feast is going to give us 4,000 while we're mapping. So we're basically going to have like a 6k effective hit pool, which is good. So we definitely want as much HP as we can. So I may even use Adziri's Disdain because I actually do really like that helmet, especially when you're trying to find a better helmet. And this is just a really good budget option. We can put Cannibalism on something and just be getting double recovery. And yeah, it's just a really overall good unique so that we can kind of find a better helmet. But for now, I've got a really good helmet. It gives me a lot of evasion and energy shield. The best thing to go for would be a pure energy shield helmet. And then I would be taking Subterfuge Mask because I am right next to it. And it will give me tons of evasion because later on we're going to want to go acrobatics, so we want as much evasion as we can. And if I get like a 500 energy shield helmet, that's 1,000 flat evasion, so that's quite a bit for the build. Okay, so another thing about Shattering Concoction is that freeze currently in Path of Exile 2 is crazy powerful. So Shattering Concoction has an inherent freeze buildup of 100%, which is basically this support gem, Glaciation. 50%, put 2 of these supports on your main skill without them even being in there. So it already does a lot of cold damage. It already has really good base crit chance, which is 11. So, I mean, your weapon on an Invoker Monk would be 10%, for example. So this is already a better base chance, and then you can scale that up. So we also get cold exposure on hits. So if we get the Heavy Frost notable on the tree, which is where I'm heading soon, I'm going to get hits ignore non-negative elemental resistances of frozen enemies. So we freeze an enemy basically as soon as we see it, and then we can ignore all their elemental resistances, getting tons of damage. It's just a huge burst window. So I do want this, and then basically with cold exposure, which is built into the skill, we can actually go below 0 to do more damage. So this is really good for chain freezing or just getting way more freezes. So yeah, basically the more freeze buildup is the reason why I want to use the skill so much. And for hardcore, it's really powerful to use freeze. I was thinking about using poisonous concoction, but another thing that's really powerful about freeze is that when you shatter an enemy, it is corpse removal. So there are a lot of on-death effects for enemies, like the big bloated dudes with the big mace. When they die and don't get shattered, they actually explode. And that kind of thing is a little scary for hardcore, so I would rather them turn into little ice cubes on the ground by shattering everything that I see. And especially using the Heralds, I'm shattering pretty much every pack that I come across. So it's very, very good for hardcore. And as well on bossing, I'm basically freezing a boss to not do any actions, which in turn is offensive and also defensive capability, which is the whole reason why I'm playing this build right now. So yeah, just a quick rundown of my skills currently and their support gems. I'm using Shattering Concoction with Primal Armament, Ice Bite, Scatter Shot, and Martial Tempo. I need attack speed because my Quiver doesn't have attack speed, so Martial Tempo's in there. Scatter Shot gives you 2 additional projectiles. This is a must-have. I thought maybe it would be good without it. No, because the projectiles overlap and it just gives you way more damage. As well, when you have Scatter Shot on and you throw one like this and it throws 3, each one has an independent crit chance value. So one could be 90% crit, another could be 100, and another could be 2. So like one of your 3 critting is going to give you big damage. If you get 3 out of 3 that crit, it's really big damage. So that's why that's there. And then Ice Bite is something that I put on because I put Cold Infusion in my Herald of Thunder to make it do more cold damage. Yeah, I took it out because 2 reasons. One is I wanted Herald of Thunder to freeze more often. so that I could get the chain reactions. And another is because I want lightning damage on Shattering Concoction, because the more lightning damage I have, the easier it is to shock. And I want shock when I'm doing bosses or any type of single target, because it gives you so much more damage when you have shock percentage. I'm also using Voltaic Mark so that I can get more chance to shock, and as well as shocks have 30% increased effect, which gives me like 26% shock, which is really nice. And then, yeah, so Ice Bite, we pretty much freeze an enemy as soon as we see it, so we're always getting this 35% of damage, like as a 3-second burst window, which is really good. If you have enough attack speed, you're going to be having this up pretty much 100% of the time. Next thing we're using is Wind Dancer. I'm using the classic Wind Wave, Pin, and Blind support. This is just a defensive gem. I qualityed it, so I get 4 stages so that I have more evasion. Freezing Salvo, I was using this, not so much anymore, but it is really good when you're leveling. Just putting Hourglass on it just gives it an insane amount of damage. And then, yeah, Voltaic Mark. This is something that I think I might put on Cast on Freeze later, because I could use this, or I could use Freezing Mark for its Nova effect. So there's the Mark, and then there's also the Nova. So the Nova does base lightning damage, has a crit chance, and also has a really good chance to shock. So this could help us a lot in our clear if I'm getting Cast on Freeze, and as soon as I freeze a pack, it's getting Nova'd, and the chain reaction happens and just gives me a lot of damage. So Freezing Mark would be good though too, because obviously we do cold damage, so any percentage increases some cold damage, we're getting like a lot more cold damage for clear. So yeah, Cast on Freeze with either this mark or the Freezing Mark is probably a later thing to do, but for now I like to use this on bossing because it just gives me that extra shock percentage for way more damage. Now, we're using Herald of Ice. I have them 5-link because I've actually been fortunate enough to drop a bunch of Greater Jewelers. But yeah, I'm using Magnified Effect, Conduction, Lightning Infusion, and then Coursing Current. This is just the typical setup to get like the most shocks you possibly can with it. And then also Herald of Thunder. I'm using Glaciation, Ambush to get more crit chance on full life enemies. And then Inevitable Critical, I have this on right now because I just don't have a lot of crit chance, and it's nice to get that crit with the Herald of Thunder so that it freezes, and then that freeze, shatter, explode with the Herald of Ice, and so on and so forth. And then Cold Infusion, obviously, to give it more cold damage. Then I also have Eye of Winter. This is a really good skill for afflicting cold weakness, or sorry, critical weakness. Basically, every time it gets hit, up to 20 times, you get 0.5 to critical hit chance. So you're getting a total of 10% to critical hit chance. So that's really big on bosses. And I'm also using Unleash, as well as Deceleration. So Deceleration is just to make it go slower so that it actually can hit the target more often. So if it goes fast, it just doesn't like go, like say the target's right in front of me, like all the projectiles don't really hit it. But if I were to put this on, it goes slower, which like more of the projectiles are hitting this area. It's kind of hard to explain. Yeah, basically that and Unleash is just giving me a second seal, which is basically making it so that I can cast 2 Eye of Winters. You can see 2 of them instead of 1. I think it actually did 3 there. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah. You basically get almost the full stacks from 1 cast. You can cast it twice on a boss, but yeah, it's really good. Hypothermia as well. Typically what I do is I like to throw a concoction, freeze an enemy, then place a Hypothermia under it while it's frozen. Then you get minus 42 to cold resistance. Once I take Heavy Frost, I might actually drop that and go for Temp Chains, because Temp Chains prolongs a freeze on an enemy. And then, yeah, we're using Grim Feast with Clarity. Like, Clarity doesn't even matter. I could probably take this out. It doesn't matter at all. I just have a little bit of mana regen and stuff, just because Eye of Winter, it costs so much to use, as well as the Mark, as well as the Hypothermia. Like, you can see it uses a lot, so that's why I'm doing that. So yeah, basically, my rotation for when I'm fighting a boss, or when I'm just clearing, really just clearing, is just click the button, throw a concoction on enemies, and they just blow up. But for bossing, it's a little bit different. I tend to like to freeze the enemies, so whether it takes 1 cast or 2, normally 1 on a unique boss so far. Yeah, I just throw this, they're frozen, I cast my Hypothermia, then I cast my Eye of Winter, cast my Voltaic Mark, and then just start swinging away. And then once they're unfrozen or whatever, I'll just spam another Eye of Winter and keep spamming this to get the crits. And typically when you're critting, you're doing a lot of freeze buildup, so it works really well that way. So that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to share this project. I'm really excited to do this and kind of scale this higher than the Invoker Monk could go, because I found the Invoker Monk, once you got so much, like 400% crit damage, unless you scale more crit damage bonus, you're really kind of not doing a lot of damage. So, or using multiple bells, and I don't really want to do that. So figured I'd try a different skill and scale a little bit better with like gem levels and also the crit damage bonus on the quiver and stuff. So yeah, and the only thing I really have to go for is just like the Widowhail and the quiver, and then the rest will kind of fall into place because I'll have so much damage from getting a +2 with a crit damage bonus. So yeah, that's basically the whole plans with the character, though. I'm going to keep playing this. Hopefully I don't die. If I do die, I might actually continue the character on softcore solo self-found just to see where I can push it to. But yeah, this is basically a free build, guys. Like, go try this out. This is super fun. Concoction skills are super good. I wouldn't even say they're underrated. A lot of people are playing them now, but Shattering Concoction, really good if you want to play hardcore. You know, it's both offensive and defensive at the same time. So anyways, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.